Stage, Miss Drew Femi Ajala. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes. Ibrahim, are you with us? Are you there? Please, can you speak? Can you hear? We are not able to hear you loud and clear. Can you? Hello, Ibrahim, are you there? Louder a bit. Yes, we can hear you. Thank you so much, Ibrahim. Hello, can you hear us? Can you hear me now? All right, thank you very much. Are you ready to engage with our panelists? All right. Yes, yes. Okay. All right. Yeah. You get a question? Or do you get a question? All right, thank you very much, Ibrahim. They got a question. So just to answer the question, please give a brief introduction about yourself and then just answer the question as well. So we'll start with Oluwaseyi.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Oluwaseyi Moijo. I am of Recycle Initiative Africa, and I'm a national young explorer. So essentially, 5 years ago, when I was 16, I started Recycle because I noticed this gap between youth and the environment here in Nigeria, and I wanted to do something about it, no matter how little. One of my mantras have always been little actions can build to big impact, and that was how I started from being a high school student to then starting my NGO, and then we've been on for the past couple of years, and we've been launching projects from Lagos to different parts of Nigeria, focused especially on we can become more inspired to do something, to do either through speaking about it or taking action for the environment and to tackle pressing global issues like plastic pollution and climate change. So, in response to that question, one thing that stands out is that inaction is very costly. Over the years, people have refused to act. We have chosen to ignore the problem, and now it's right at our doorstep. And inaction is costly. Climate change will not wait, and we have to. That is why youths are now becoming more passionate, more concerned, and demanding for accountability and more commitment from our government. Um, in summary, the fact is that we are the ones that are going to face the harsh realities in the coming couple of years, from 5 to 10 years. Our children will get to face the harsh realities, and the current generation might not even be around to see some of the severe impacts of climate change. It is very interesting to know that this is just the beginning, and there is so much at stake if we choose not to do what we ought to do. And so I feel the realities and the urgency of the situation has made you to understand that we just have to do something, no matter how little, no matter how huge. We have to just contribute our actions and our words to making change happen. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Okay. Good afternoon, guys. My name is Omashe, and I'm a member of the Youth Sustainable Development Network. Also a consultant because I work with various organizations, local and international, on um, formulating and implementing SDG-based policies. So and projects actually. So that's what I've been doing. Uh, Please pardon this mic. Okay, the question on why youths are now more than ever involved in the SDGs and renewable or sustainable development. The first answer I would have to that is the internet. Our parents, their parents, did not to the internet, so um, did not understand the fact that issues they were facing were global issues, and the same issue you're facing, the same thing someone in another continent is facing. So the internet has made everything because the world is basically our village. So it's easy to understand that we are all going through this as youth, and it's easy to connect with each other. It's easy to get across, basically come together. The is the internet. Second thing I would say, the fact that youths have basically realized us actually. Okay, yeah, this is better. So a lot of youths are now starting to understand the role youths play in the SDGs, and the truth is that most of these goals cannot be achieved without the youths. We are actually we're more needed than they think we are. So we are youths are coming into this knowledge space where they understand the role they have to play and are willing to act on that. So that's what is going on right now. We are seeing youths awaken to their roles and responsibilities and try to recruit more youths in trying to create this impact. So technology and the awareness of the youth's role in SDGs. That's it from me.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Durodolua Femi Ajala. I'm a board member of the Youth Sustainable Development Network, which we started in 2019 because we realized that we also wanted to create a change. And in doing so is the reason why we as youth should also rise up to the challenge to not just know about the issues, but to also acknowledge and take action for the issues. So now I'm going to start off from where my co-panelists, stopped, which was about youth are tired and youth are waking up to the realization that they have a voice. So now world population says that youth are around 1.8 billion. So let's just classify it around 2 billion people. And population wise, we are 8 billion people. So that means you are saying 2 in every 8 persons on earth are youth. And you find more of youth in developing societies, economies. And if you're not looking at climate change, you realize that climate change affects more of developing societies than more of developed societies. So you're saying that youth in developing societies are more affected on the issue of climate change. And my co-panelists also mentioned the fact that we have, like, because of climate change is something that should be known as not just a yearly event or weather patterns, but actually it's what has started for like 30 years prior to what we're experiencing now. So climate is changing is not it happened yesterday or it started from yesterday. It started from 30 to 50 years ago, and that is why we are experiencing what we're experiencing now. So it's more like, why are youths rising up to the challenge? Because they realize that if we don't take action in 2022 leading up to 2030, then by 2070 our actions in this current age is what people in 2070 are going to be experiencing, because it's not what the activities that they're indulging in 2065 that the youth in 2070 are going to be experiencing, but rather it's what has happened from 20 or 2000 to, let's say, 2020 that people would be experiencing in the next 50 years. So it's more like the realization that, oh, youths are tired and they're waking up to the fact that, oh, my generations to come are going to, let's say, push back on what we have started. So if you are not doing something for the positive, then you know you're doing it for the negative, because at the end of the day, 50 years down the line, it's going to be on you, and the youths in next 50 years are going to say, you youths currently did not do enough for us, just like what we are saying to our leaders, that you didn't do enough for us because you're not taking action as we expected you to. And we are saying we are tired. So because we are tired and we have realized that we have a voice, come on, 2 in every 8 person is a youth. That excludes children, that excludes dependents, that excludes old people. So you can see the magnitude of our voice, and because of that realization and that knowledge and that power, you can see that now we get sound. Like there's no excuse about that. So I think it's really about that concept and about that knowing that, makes people understand that yes, for the next 50 years, so far we take the appropriate actions now, then the climate that would be then would be a positive climate for that community or that generation. Thank you. Okay, I think I got your question, Mr. Ibrahim. So it's more like, what are the current crises that youths are facing, or like barriers basically that youths are currently facing? Yes, and okay. So firstly, um, we have the powers that be. We have the powers that be in the corporate world, in the society, even in social entrepreneurship, even in this growing phenomena. We have powers that be, that they have, exactly. Someone just said controlling powers. Thank you for that word. Controlling powers. And I think because their own interest is being threatened, they would also hinder people that subsequently would rise up and, you know, challenge what they're doing. So that also brings us to the concept of greenwashing, because you have a lot of organizations that are major polluters of the environment. And I'm going to camp around the environment, not just climate change, because climate change is a part and parcel of the environment, but you have like the environment as a scope in itself. And you have people that are major polluters of the environment. And at the end of the day, they bring out yearly reports, they launch programs, but you really realize that in their core processes, they are not sustainable enough to actually guarantee what they are saying. So you're now having people like climate activists rising up and saying, you're not doing enough for us. And because they feel threatened, at the end of the day, you realize that they are really preventing you from climbing that mountain. So it's more like, these people they're going somewhere, but if we let them through the path, they're telling us to reduce our processes, reduce our footprint. It's going to obviously affect our downtime, or our profits in return. Because if I'm going to go for a renewable alternative, that might be expensive for me. So I obviously want to cut corners. And in cutting corners means that I have to then increase, let's say, whatever other processes I'm involved in. So at the end of the day, my profits are going to be reduced. So if I'm looking at the margin, I'm going to be like, no, I don't really want to take this. Let me just shroud it in things that people cannot really see. And because of that, you have fantastic yearly reports that they bring out. We have programs that they launch, and then all of us know it as greenwashing, because we know the truth, but they are the ones that have the money. And at the end of the day, so they feel threatened. So they're like the people that actually block youth from going into this space, because they know what the youths are carrying. And at the end of the day, if they really allow them to enter this space, then many of their economic, social, environmental benefits will be cut short. So you can look at it from that space, because truth be told, you really see the resistance going into a lot of these organizations. And I think like one of the solutions to that would obviously be governmental and international bodies intervention, because yes, in as much as we are, people, but we need to have the voice to carry it. So if you realize that that is a problem that we are facing, then it can't just be one prong approach that you use to solve that problem. It has to be multidimensional. And that means also taking the people, the NGOs that really care, because even in this, I think that's even another problem. Even in the youth space, we have a lot of people that thrive on the vibes and are not really there for the passion in code. They're just here for the money, the incentive. And that's also another problem. So you realize that even people that are in it to actually solve our resources, and because of that, we're not going to do enough for you. So that's also another barrier. That's also another barrier that you have to cross, because you have climate change, which is a buzzword, to be honest. But at the end of the day, realize that if you take out the big fancy words and break it down for people to really understand, a lot of people don't really understand what climate change is. And that's also another issue that threatens us. So you can see like it's a lot of things that we have to start thinking through to then address. And if you're talking about knowledge that people need to know, break it down to things that people can understand. Simplify the process. You don't need to shroud it in the big language, in the things that, because if somebody is thinking about what to eat and you're telling them about climate change, that one is big. You really have to, because so the way to actually address it is look at it from their perspective, make it more grassroots and more community incentivized, so that you're addressing it from ah, okay, this is what is affecting you. Let me tell you how poverty is linked to climate change, and how if you solve your climate change issues, you also solve your poverty issues. That way, you're bridging the gap between what they are seeing physically and what they cannot see. So you can see that all these barriers are multi-pronged, and you can't just say, oh, this is the only problem that is affecting the youth today, or why they can't enter these places. And if you look at the problems, and you bring about communities or um bodies, just like we're having this conversation now, and they think about, oh, these are the things, and you can actually solve, because these are people that are really, that have it, that they want to do it for the passion, and they are not just there for the vibes or for the things that they can get. So thank you.
Okay. She basically said almost everything. Uh, I have like 3 points I would like to add actually. The first, like she said, is the global economy actually. So like I was having a discussion with a friend of mine the other day, and he works with a company that ships oil basically. They bring oil, they bring and take oil basically, and we were having a discussion. He was saying we in the green sector are deceiving ourselves, so we were just having that discussion. So there's a lot of there's this mentality they have that we are trying to cut them off. Meanwhile, what we are preaching is a transition, and there are vast majority of opportunities for them to actually cling to. Do you get in this in this transition we are preaching of? So a lot of them are trying to just hold on to their old and old system that works for them, makes them billions of dollars, but they don't see the untapped opportunities that actually come with this energy transition that we're talking about. And one fact I would just like us to bear in mind is the fact that there was a report that was released some time ago that says that in a couple years' time, because of the rising sea levels, a lot of major cities or major capitals will be flooded, and i- Lagos is a major city. Is happening already. So climate change is not something that is far away. It's not, as much as we want to say that we are not so much affected, but the truth is that Lagos itself is affected. In a few years' time, this flooding that we're seeing is going to. In fact, people from Makoko will probably start looking for how to buy land in Ondo or something. Exactly. So that's the first point. Global economy. The fact that these people that are in charge of the energy sector currently do not see the opportunities that are present in the transition, and what would rather like cling to what is already in existence. Then the second thing that youths face actually is slow government processes. So so I've been myself and we've been trying to partner. Actually, we've been working on a partnership with Lagos State government for some time, and it's to this this partnership is supposed to see SDGs brought to public schools. So the plan exactly yeah, the plan is to basically tackle the high level of illiteracy when it comes to sustainable development in public schools. So like we're trying to build a generation of public students that know what's going on and are aware of their environment, so that at least wherever they find themselves in the future, they'll be able to be or act responsibly concerning the environment. Now, one of the issues we've been faced with is the fact that government processes are very slow, very very slow. We've been meeting with them for some time now, and there's almost no headway right now. So that's one of the major problems actually, because we have people willing to act. We have youths wanting to do stuff. This proposal we've brought on is very straightforward, straight to the point, and it's clear that it's going to benefit the economy and the youths. But because of the fact that our administrative system is poor, um, we basically have no headway on that. So that's a major problem. I'm sure we're not the only ones facing this. A lot of youths are facing this kind of problems. You have very brilliant ideas, but there's just no cooperation. The last one is the high level of illiteracy. like Drew mentioned, it's not enough to tell someone or tell someone in big grammars that this thing you are doing is affecting the climate. There are ways to do it actually to bring it down to the level of people that understand. So you see, a lot. What triggers me actually in this Lagos is every time I see someone just eat and dump the plastic in. It used to it irritates me so much, and maybe one of these days they will beat me in Lagos for always talking about it. But the truth is that when the rain comes and and flooding comes, you see a lot of people tagging the government and tagging government, tagging leaders and everything, and talking about how no leaders have failed us. In reality, we are failing ourselves, and a lot of people actually is a lot of people tweet or talk about these things, but the change actually starts with you and your home. So I just want us as we're going home today, please let us try to start implementing changes in our own house. Some people cannot tell their fathers to stop littering, but you come on Twitter to tell people to stop littering. How do you want that to work? So the change starts in your house. Try and start disposing your debts the right way. Limit your use of plastic. You don't always have to buy a nylon bag with your goods you're purchasing. You can always go to the market with your own bag. So like the change starts with us, and that's one of the major problems youth face actually, because while you are thinking positively, you are trying to create change. The next person by your side he doesn't really understand what you are saying, and if you're not able to communicate it effectively with this person, the it's just going to continue. So the illiteracy is a barrier, and we must find a way to look for how to bridge it or cross it. So those are just the three points from me.
All right. I think I'm particularly enjoying this panel session because it's offering very different perspectives and really broadening one's insight on this issue. So just to build up on what has already been said, I think one of the very first barrier is access to knowledge. Like the fact that most of us sitting down here, if I were to ask you how did you get to know about climate change, personally, the very first time I heard about climate change was in Basic 2, and that was the last of it. I did not hear about it again. And it was just the term we learned in our basic science textbook, and I felt it was a good I felt it was a good thing. That oh, it was part of the weather. But as I began to do my work in plastic pollution, I got to then understand climate change and saw it in a different light. So we have to make climate education more accessible to young people. We do not want a repeat of what is already happening. Like most of us here, we probably heard about climate change either through the internet or through a net in an event, or probably someone telling us about it very briefly, right? And see how much that has inspired us to even be in this room, right? So how can we ensure that we get more people in rooms like this, that they'll become more inspired to create solutions? And how can we also put more pressure on the government, despite the barriers as well, to promote, to finance climate education, to support books about climate education, to change the curriculum in terms of climate education? And even beyond, that's one aspect of access to knowledge. Now, I was speaking with someone else about climate activism, and she was like, a lot of climate activists are just energized. They're always just shouting, we want change, we want change. If you go and ask them, okay, what do you actually want? They can't really like articulate it properly. So we those that are in the room like us, we have the burden of building our capacity and knowledge more vastly. Like we never like you can never know too much about something. Consciously, intentionally building your capacity from online courses to events, to speaking to people, even internet, following people online that can offer you more deep insights on climate change, that can go a very long in a very long way towards helping to contribute to this issue, because we don't want people functioning from the wrong perspective, right? We want people functioning from the healthy perspective to see how we can become more informed and make more informed actions and solutions. Next, access to resources and opportunities. I remember when I started my journey, like I just wanted the chance to prove myself. I was very passionate, and it was very hard to make to raise grants, to make ends meet in terms of financing our projects. I had to walk long distances to banks to raise funds. But it all changed when I received a grant from National Geographic, and that was like a kind of proof that I could do something more. And recently received another grant from the government of Canada, and it's just like a ladder that we're hoping that will keep growing and growing, right? So some young people are like me, they want to prove themselves as well. They're passionate and they want a platform, they want resources to change. But sadly, in this kind of climb where ageism is like a barrier, where people feel that you have to be old to be able to do something of some particular nature, where even your parents at some point might ask you, what are you actually gaining from this, and why are you really passionate about the environment? I remember having a lot of us conversation with my parents at the start. It wasn't hard, it was very hard, it wasn't easy to navigate, but I always told them that I'm sowing seeds, and I'm so happy to see that the seeds are now reaping harvest, right? In terms of how our solutions have scaled from beyond just Lagos to different parts of Nigeria. And what makes me so inspired most times is that most of these things were things I thought about in my mind, or while speaking to a friend, or while just drawing sketches on my notepad, and see how far it has gone. So that is one of the reasons why I'm doing the work I do today. I'm not waiting for the government, but I'm trying to see how I can build the capacity and knowledge of more youth across Nigeria to begin to see that in the future, in the next 2 years to 5 years, we are seeing an ecosystem of youth that are well informed, that are passionate, rightly passionate, not just concerned about the accolades, but more about how they can really solve this problem. And it all comes from the place of knowledge. Even and secondly, I would say even networks. Some networks are actually so tight, right? That it's very hard for you to really explore in terms of um learning more about this issue. So finally, I would call for intergenerational solutions in terms of solving this problem. Youth need to be on the table, not in a tokenized manner, like not just to tick boxes that, oh, we have youth from Lagos, Port Harcourt here, we have them here on the ministry table or something, but more about having youth contribute to the picture that we want for our future, and moving beyond nepotism, not just filling. Our governments need to move beyond just filling the spaces with their family members and people that do not have the right capacity. My problem with the government is that they do not have the capacity. Like, literally, there's a particular project they talked about recently that was a afforestation project that Buhari cited during COP26, and he was like, they have they have afforested a particular hectares of land, and it is nothing close to the truth. It's just figures. I don't know what they bought them for. They gave it to the wrong contractors, and they did shabby jobs. They barely did anything, and that's just how resources wasted. And that could have been channeled to the right person, the person who had done the right thing, and would have been in a better place. So we need more people that are. That is why even I'm doing the work I'm doing, so that in the future, when we're looking for people that can actually fill these spots, fill these gaps, people that are going to make decisions at those critical tables, youths will be there, youths that are well informed will be there, and they will be encouraged, they'll be able to make the right decisions that do not just talk about profit or personal gains, but more about the bigger picture of how can we protect our planet, how can we protect our planet, how can we protect what we know and love. So yes, thank you.
Wonderful contributions from you all, like from what motivates us to action to the barriers that we are facing as a youth to our actions, and yeah, you have identified many things, and which link to our next question on the, like as you all say, the identified challenge in the climate space is lack of limited intergenerational connection between the older and the youth, between the government and the youth, inclusion in the policy, between all the gaps we have identified. So my next question will be, how how do you how do you address this gap for collaboration and moving forward? Because collaboration is key for success. How can we now make this older generation? How do you make this government? How can we make the private institutions? How can we make the philanthropists and NPC, like to address the collaborate in addressing these gaps we have identified? So these the questions. Waiting for your deliberation.
So I'll just be very brief about that. What I feel is, like, one of the major issues that you notice in government projects is that they just go on to do things without consulting very well from the people what we actually need, what in like conducting proper needs assessment to see how they can reflect the needs of people, needs of communities around the issue of climate change. So I feel that there should be more frameworks and systems. Like I'm talking about frameworks and systems because beyond just projects and one-off things like conferences once in a while or once in a blue moon, how can we move towards more systems and frameworks that can encourage youth participation in terms of climate change adaptation and mitigation plans here in Nigeria? And how can the government also regularly consult with youths, because that intergenerational collaboration is necessary if we want to move away from our current way of doing things, that's our current business as usual. So youth consultations would also be very helpful. And I think that's it for me right now. Yes, thank you.
Uh, Sorry, Ayo, can you read the question to me again? Oh, okay, okay, okay. Concerning the collaboration gap, uh, I think the first thing I would say is that this thing comes up a lot. The gap that exists between governments, actors, and organizations. Um, I was opportune to be at a conference like about 3 weeks ago in Paris, and this same question came up on how international organizations can bridge the gap between youths and government, youth, and international organizations. And my answer still remains the same. The first thing we have to do is to create a network of actors. Actually, it's like creating a spider web. That way, it's very easy to bridge the gap when you have like a woven network of actors around, let's say around the country. Easy for the government to decide that, okay, I want to do this today, and how do I get it done? I already have actors, I already have there are people in place doing these things. So all they have to do is to get to like a general meeting with actors, or capitalize on what's already being done. And one thing I always say is that to increase impact, you have to actually increase the value or the resources you are using already. So a lot of local actors today in this room, like yourself, she also recycles, and what the Youth Sustainable Development Network is doing. These are organizations that are doing the most with the little they have. Now, imagine these organizations properly supported by the government. Imagine there's a bridge gap between these organizations and the government. Imagine you having access to the correct commissioner you need to work with. Imagine such a situation. You'd be able to achieve times five of what you are currently doing. I mean, you're currently doing what you have with very little resources and very small visibility. Imagine having the push you need. So the solution to that is the government or we ourselves starting a network, having a network of people and actors doing different things, having like a spider web. So we know that, okay, where there is something done here, it doesn't matter. It can always be replicated here. Why? Because there is already a chain of action. There's a web. So that's like for me, that's the best solution to anything. Whatever international organization is looking back, it should always look for local actors, because local actors are like the best ways to get things done. If you are looking to create impact and you want to start from scratch, it's almost like you're acting out of ignorance, because you have to first look at the environment you are trying to impact. There are people doing something there. There's something being done there. Try and upscale what the person is doing, and you will see the kind of impact you would create. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Thank you both so much. So I think I'm just going to base my answer just on one point, and this came about from me listening to the time when Amina J. Mohammed was speaking. So it was more like from the governmental perspective and from the youth perspective. So in trying to bridge the intergenerational connection and gap that we currently have, it's also knowing how to communicate your demands to the government. That's very important. So she was like, because she has been in a governmental position before, before she became DSG. It was more like when many youth activists came on board, it felt as if they were attacking the government. So once it feels as if you're attacking somebody, so they build a defense mechanism to push against your attack. So that's where communication. So you can see that there are a lot of soft skills at play here. So you might have the requisite knowledge, the requisite information, data, statistics. We don't really focus on. Because if you can't communicate your demands and don't come off from a point that I'm attacking you or from an offensive point of view, then they can be more receptive to your ideas. So it was more like an eye-opening that, oh, she has gone through that part. So she understands when she says that it feels as if you're attacking the government because the government is not doing as much as you expect the government to do. True. So you might feel like they have not done enough, but how exactly do you present your ideas to the government that you want to work in your favor? Because I'm not going to work for someone that I feel is going to attack me later on down the line. I want to partner, I want to collaborate with that person. So if at the end of the day I feel like I'm being oppressed, I feel like I'm being attacked, or there's an offense on that other side, I'm going to close up. And that's how a lot of governmental officials feel. So I think that communication skill and knowing how to present your ideas or your mandates to them is very important, so that they don't feel as if you're attacking them, and because of that they have a defense mechanism already in place for it, that they have started again, youth activists, they have started again, let's just close off, because after a while they will go. So you're not giving them what they want. So it's also knowing how to communicate your demands to them in the appropriate way. So you can even say that you might want to have a mediator in your midst. So you can say that a mediator is for bridging conflict, but what if the mediator is there to also communicate your demands to the other party, and the mediator is also communicating the other party's demands to you, so that way you are bridging a particular gap that you otherwise might not be able to do on your own. So it's also about, learning the soft skills as we also push our agenda. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ibrahim. Just before we get a final message from all of our panelists, we also want to answer questions. So we would read the questions. You can take note of the questions. So you answer the questions, and so you give your final message. So that way we are able to be ahead of things. All right. Question? All right. Okay. Please just help introduce yourself, and then we'll come into people virtually. Okay, comments. We're coming there virtually, but let's start with the people here with us.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Sunday Kolawole Sholanke. I'm the co-founder and the CEO of Petpoint and Junkyard Technology. So I'm going to ask my question to Shay, and I want you to have your opinion. Now, all over the world, you and I are aware that Coca-Cola is the biggest polluter all over the world. And now, and this even goes to everybody, and everybody can even ask. And I'm sure you've seen this question online. I think it's online now. LinkedIn is asked that question. Now, Cook is the sponsor of COPS 27. What is your opinion about it?
Yeah, Unilever was a major. sponsor for COP26. So yes, yeah, Unilever was. They were like the major sponsor. All right. So you're free to direct your question to any of our panelists, but I mean, if you just want to keep it open. Okay, contribution. All right. Okay, just yeah, in some minutes, please.
Can I stand? I love to stand. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Yes, I really enjoy the panel discussions and everything that's been spoken there. It's wonderful to hear. I just want to make a little bit contribution to what has been said. Not necessarily a question. Um, I want to speak on when the issue was raised about bridging the gap. You know, a lot of things was said there, and part of what was said is the fact that you need to start local. Yes. So if you're complaining that, oh, they are speaking big words you don't understand, or oh, international communities are not coming to me, it's probably because you're not on the grassroots. You need to be down there. So down there is where you now are able to understand the concept, what is happening. What are you doing on the grassroots? Very important. All right. So I wanted to just highlight that you need to start from the grassroots. There's a reason why the Paris Agreement was made in 2015. It was made so that the gap can be filled that will tend to solve things from bottom to the top, and not just coming from the top to the bottom. Because when you're coming with the big grammars from the top, you're not able to do anything with it down here. So we needed to come up with national determined contributions down here. So what can you do? What can you contribute from the grassroots? And then you take it up to the international level. So I just wanted to say that we should think more about solutions, right? A lot of us think about the profits in our innovations. We think a lot about profits, and that is why we're not making any progress. So we need to think more about solutions. As young people, we are solution providers. That is what they know us for. Honestly, I've been to things like these organizations or conferences, and when a young person stands up, what they want to hear from you is your innovative thinking. That's all they know. And not just about you thinking about, well, how am I going to make profit from this situation? So how am I going to be of value? How am I going to bring my innovations to this situation? Should be the base of our thinking as young people. I just wanted to say that. Thank you all.
Contribution, please, in 40 seconds, if possible.
Thank you so much. I want to appreciate the panelists for the insight you have shared. A few things came to my mind whilst everyone was speaking. I'm sorry I did not get your name, but the young man in the middle mentioned trashing cans and all, trashing waste and all of that. And it got me thinking that we could have trash cans like on the road, just like it's done outside the country. Then I think about it again. Who is going to provide all of this? Who is going to make it available? And I just thought about how we can make policy making for behavioral change. Because if you keep talking to people, we know we are in Nigeria. How do we get people to change their behavior? So it's more like having people to change their behavior around what, not just a social thing to do. In the sense that having it as a social thing means that you're always dependent on probably grants or the government, or you're waiting for something to happen to you rather than you making something happen. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think what can happen is for young people like us to see how we can make these things into business. How do we get renewable bags? How do we get renewable trash cans? How do we get all of that going? That way we can force the government to look into what is even happening. A good example is what is happening in the tech space. So currently the government came up with the startup bill to see how they can create structure around what's happening in the tech space and the how much businesses has erupted from the tech world, and just creating structure around that. Before, if you told anybody about that, the government is just like, oh, they're there. But now they're seeing how much so many people are going and creating solutions using tech. I think that such approach can also be applied even in the green economy, where we do not see it as just a thing that we're talking about. It is business of the day. And you know that you're going to be making profit out of it. And so you want to give your best into seeing that those changes are enacted. I mean to say it's open for analysis and contribution.
Thank you very much. Please, let's come to people virtually first before we return to people here. All right, so we have just the only comments. All right, so Ibiso virtually saying, as a youth, as a change maker, start with what you have, and start with where you are, your immediate community. People can only assist your actions when they see what you have started doing. Projects both personal as a volunteer in an organization or as a collaboration for a just cause. So essentially, she's saying, start small, start small, start small. Thank you very much, Ibisu, for the wonderful contribution. So, are you asking a question or contributing? All right, great.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Oluwafemi, and I am the founder of Oba Global Citizen. It's a social enterprise supporting economies and human development for sustainability. Okay. So, again, my name is Oluwafemi. I am the founder of Oba Global Citizen, a social enterprise supporting economies and human development for sustainability. So we have a series of developmental projects going on. To add to what she said, thank you very much for that contribution. One of the ways to woo the government, to toast the government, is how to make money for government. Currently, Nigeria is broke on those states where we are working on stopping deforestation. So we have access to more than 300,000 hectares of land and working with more than 30,000 small-scale farmers. And we developed a technology solution that will enforce, due to increase in agricultural practices and some other things, there has been a lot of encroachment, illegal encroachment into government's forest reserve, cutting down trees, to sell those trees But one thing I've come to realize that when we approached the government, we told them that they can make a certain amount of money. And acting local and thinking global, there is a place of system in the blame itself. It's a wicked problem. And one has to be able to think through different systems. Now, I've come to realize that there's been a lot of isolation when we talk about this SDG, sustainability, or climate change, everything. But but okay, so there's a place of system innovation whereby we have to apply system thinking to solve the complex problem that we are all. And then one of the things I will also mention is we have to be entrepreneurial in nature, in character, in our approach. Find a way to commercialize whatever you are venturing into. The climate change of a thing, but the fact that I'm not against NGOs, but realize that most people go online, go about talking about policy, advocacy, campaigning all about, but without thinking of how can we commercialize what we are doing. Sustainability comes in three different pillars: social, economic, and environment. Everybody's focusing on environment, focusing on social, without thinking about the economic importance. So at the end of the day, realize that everybody's just working in isolation and we won't even reach that SDG. Thank you very much.
We have virtual etiquette. Can't just disturb people. All right, thank you very much. Question. So, any question? Okay, a question from here. Okay, comments. We seem to have so much comments. People are angry. Okay. Chizoba said, "What was the traditional way of our African ancestors? Of our African ancestors implemented policies. For every solution they carried out during their time, was there a form of paperwork or contract and waiting periods to get them done?" Is this a question? Not comments. Okay. So she's just trying to emphasize that we should just carefully work with things. Not, the whole process is too much, like bureaucracy here and there. But it's so sad that that's the reality of where we find ourselves, and hopefully things get better. Um, question? Any question again? All right. Question or contribution? Question or contribution? All right. Okay. Please, may I have a question?
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sadiq Jinad. To begin with, I would like to appreciate all of the panelists for the very amazing session. So, with respect to bridging the gap between governments and youths taking action towards advancing the SDGs generally, for me personally, I've been privileged to at least work in the government space for some while now. And in as much as we might have ideas about how things work in the government space, there's also reality about how things really work there. The reality is that for most government spaces, the reality now is that they don't really a kind of control to individuals approaching them, regardless of the magnitude of your solution or your idea or whatever it is. If you're an individual and then you approach government, like it will take them time to think about your proposed idea, your proposed solutions, and all of that. But however, if it's a kind of organizations or even conglomerates of organizations coming together to actually push for a particular demand from the government, like that always carry weight, and the rate at which they process such information, process such ideas and demands is much more faster compared to when one should approach them probably as individuals, regardless of the beauty of one's idea, how realistic the idea is, and all of that. So I think that's one of that thing that we need to look into, especially we as youths that are in the volunteering space. Doing our little towards making the world a better place. It's actually essential that as much as possible we tend to collaborate, we tend to partner as much as possible, because at the end of the day, I think one of the facilitators spoke about approaching governments for a project which involved teaching SDGs in schools. At the moment, I think there is an existing organization like that. I think Growing Up Afrika was strictly into teaching SDGs across schools in Nigeria. So I believe we could always, institutions like this, we can always partner with such organizations, and then we're meant to have like two solid organizations approaching government, or even more organizations approaching government for demand towards working in teaching SDGs across schools in Lagos State. I'm sure it will carry more weight, and the time with which such demand will be processed will be much more shorter compared to approaching government as individuals, the case may be. So very briefly, okay, I'm just wrap the rest. So also talking about the business, talking about entrepreneurship as the case may be, or trying to make business out of the entire climate crisis. The idea is actually very nice, because obviously that's just the reality. We have so many climate problems. We have so many problems in our environment, and the best way we could actually solve them is by applying some elements of entrepreneurship into them. Trying to make profits, clean profits now out of those problems. However, I think one other thing that we also need to consider is the fact that for those solutions that have been brought in, those innovations, they should to some significant extent be able to create a balance between the people, the profits, and also the planet. In as much as we are looking at the profits, which is very, very essential, because at the end of the day, the most viable of solutions are those that are economically viable and environmentally sustainable. So it's essential we actually also think about creating a balance between making profits, thinking about the people, and also about the planet. Although I have a last one here, but let me just stop it there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. So mine is focused on the community. There should be sustainability is actually expensive. Yeah, to be sustainable is expensive. So and these people would prioritize survival over sustainability. Which is why in every of our solution there should be a way that the community would get kind of like create value for them for the continuity of our project. Which, let me use an instance. If we have something like trying to reduce their waste, there should be a way that we convert that waste to wealth for them. They'll see the need to get involved in it, because to be honest, an average Nigerian is concerned about the profit he's going to get from a particular solution. So if that problem we are trying to solve does not benefit the community, does not have some kind of value, I'm not sure they would accept it. So it's more like having to create value for the community, and would have the solutions that to continue. So, and also about NGO, I don't know why the NGOs we have in Nigeria are not working on one project. I feel like if everyone comes together to, okay, let's say this year all of the NGOs we want to work on this single project, would have a strong impact. If everybody is not about, okay, I want my organization to be the one handling this, I want mine to be the one handling this. Let everybody come together. Okay, this year we want to do this for this region. Next year we want to do this for this region. And trust me, we have very, very nice impact. So that's just my contribution to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Question, please. We have one question. So far, everybody seems to be making contribution. All right. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'll try and run very fast. First and foremost, I want to stand on existing protocols, okay? But I would like to clarify something. The reason why most of us are here, let's be very straightforward. The reason why most of us are here, some of us, we want to go to COP27. Truth, truth, truth. We want to. Some of us want to be there. We are here to get the idea. We want to know. Now, take up an NGO, bring someone out, go to anywhere, government function, public function, you find out that everybody's talking about financing. That's a factor in Africa. I've told people about time. Money is a problem in Africa. If you once you're able to take money out. Now going back to my question. The question here is, now, in spite of all this web of misconceptions, starting from leadership down to the grassroots, how do we pass this knowledge? Because that's where it's important. Everybody's talking about climate change in Lagos, which is very small. Cannot be compared to Ogoja in Cross River State. Land mass. Everybody's in Lagos talking of climate change. And yet, Lagos is not even up to Ogoja in Cross River State. Now, how do we pass this knowledge? By passing the issues of financing and our moral decay to actually doing the real work of passing this knowledge down to those in the rural areas. That's where I'm going to. Please, I need impulse because I want to actually do something next year. How do we inform those in the villages? Because they are more population than we are. Most of the destructions is coming from there. Most of the misconception is there. They are the ones using firewood, not those in Lagos. Most of us have LPG. You understand? So we don't. Very few. You cannot. In my village, we burn more firewood than Lagos. Like they used to fry gari, do everything. To do what? Like how many do you think Lagos can generate? Lagos will not still generate anything. Come to my village and see. They are frying gari now. When they bring it down to Lagos. You understand? So how do we pass this knowledge? As youths now, what do we do to pass knowledge to the rural areas? Okay? How can we bridge the gap? And what? Yes. For those in the rural areas.
For those in the rural areas, because of course, welcome. All right, it's after him, so we'll come to you, and you will be the last person, please.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Kyrie, and I really appreciate everyone for contributing towards this program to be a success. So, just to top it all up, I noted 3 basic principles as social impact changers or social impact activists, which is consistency, management, and proper positioning. I feel like with this point, for those that are intending to start up NGOs or already in the NGO space, you will thrive. Because funny enough, if you look back 5 years ago, the NGOs that were existing at that time no longer exist. Why? Consistency. Social impact is very tough, but it just depends on how passionate and how driven you are to make sure that you make that positive change that we want in our society. Thank you.
So I just want to assist this panel before they get back to them. So for Calabar, I think I was still in Calabar last month, and that's the issue here now. So if Lagos Ondo is tidy and okay, and we don't pour our plastics or waste inside the ocean, the might not have issues there at all. Because the waste we pass there inside the oceans end up there. Yes. And if you're looking at as of yesterday, I'm sure numbers follow the news yesterday. Sorry, in is it Lokoja where almost all the rice plantation in for these guys, one of the big rice companies in Nigeria, they've lost almost $70 billion has been lost just because of the rain that poured 2 days ago. The whole farm is submerged already. And it's because of what we do down here that goes down there. And exactly what I'm saying now. What has happened in the North Americas and co? What they did there those years that is affecting us now. It's also affecting us here too now. What we are doing in Southwest and developed part of Nigeria too. What is also going back there to affect them over there. And that's where the barriers are. And again to now, to say why they are not aware. Now I'll give you a good example. And that is where I think NGOs and these guys comes in from. And that's where they can help. And I'm sure you and I today go to the village, donate about HIV AIDS. And why? Because so much money was spent then on advocacy. WHO spent so much money on printing documents and materials, IC materials, USAID that goes around your country. That's the same thing we also have to do for climate action to work all over for to achieve SDG. Those things have to be like put them in plain papers in local languages and where the government, the media, the NGOs are involved and it can go around your country. There we can see it. So thank you.
So far, 2 questions. I have a question. All right. So my question is a question and a concern. It's very sad, actually. No, it's very sad because I'm more convinced. It's very clear now that the Nigerian government is not interested in supporting youth. It's very clear. No, it has never been this convincing to me until I came across the head of council for climate change that was recently inaugurated. So I met him at an event last week and I asked him, "What's the plan for youth?" So he's like, "Oh, we have a youth representative there. The future of Nigeria is bright. We are working with young people. We sponsor them. We we give them ideas." So he said something about COP particularly. He said, "Yes, we have 10 young people that are going. We give them badges, so we know that some international organizations are funding them, and so we are doing very well for the youth." And that's what he said. So it was very convincing that these people are not interested. They are not interested. So my question now is, seeing that government is not interested in our matter, they're not interested in youth-led solution, how can we thrive? How can we do better? Please, let's give it to the panelists, please. All right. Thank you. Hold on. See, let's listen to him.
Crazy person. He came from the UK to Nigeria, and since been in 2012, he didn't return back to the UK. Stays back here, and I'm sure you will know her, Dr. Femi though. Yeah. And one thing he keep telling me is this: until the day when you, Sheyi, and her are able to get in those positions and make decisions. Until when we have young people, and that's why he said some of us should come into politics and begin to and present into those areas. Said until then, he said because he shared his experience with me when he came back from the UK to Nigeria, and then he wants to do waste to energy in Lagos State, and at the point I think they did a pilot at K2, and after then the whole thing died, and it was like the guy was saying, "This guy, stop this nonsense you are saying. This is what big truck will give you license to do PSP. That's what we wanted." I was like, no. Let's come from the UK this thing is, and he said at the point like, so the issue now is until when some of us who are knowledgeable and passionate about this sector got into those offices, either because one thing thing is this, and I'm sure you are aware yourself, damn yourself. Like now, in those policy as a minister, we have essays who influence these guys too. So until when you becomes an essay to the president, and that's why you can see Mohammed, the former minister, why you can say she's doing fine because because before she came in, she was already in the US system, so she know what I mean. I know what is obtainable already. So when she was there, because people like Esther Climate comes in on board because they were essays and get things done because they were there. So some of us we need to find those opportunities to get in there too. I'm going to influence those decisions too. That's when we can achieve more. If not, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I brought a whole almighty Total Energies to my state in your state. Commissioner did not show up. Did you? The MD of Total Energies was there in my state with all his team, management team. Commissioner did not show up. That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right.
So I think one of the things I want to add to what he said is when, like flowing from what he said, that is one of the problems that I've noticed that is going on currently with the Nigerian election. A number of us are so focused on the president, the president, the president, the president. If I ask everybody here, including myself, that how many of you know who your local government chairman participants are who are participating in the elections, we do not know. If I ask who are those participating in the House of Assemblies, in the National Assemblies, like the elections that concern those places, if I ask, we do not know. And these are places that at the end of the day, they are the ones that actually run the economy. They are the ones that actually run the nation. The president, to me, is a figurehead. It is what these underbodies post to him that he will act on. So until we get to the point where we realize that there is a lot of interconnectedness of issues, of organizations, of policies, of a number of things, we would not be able to properly address certain issues. So once we get to that point where we realize that, see, it is not just a one-person thing. There is a barrage of things that are interconnected that leads to that one person. That if we start addressing it from the root cause, if just imagine a situation whereby for each local government you have proper SDG experts or experts in relevant fields that are actually in charge of each local government, I'm telling you that there is the level of poverty, the level of insecurity that is facing Nigeria as a problem, like as a collective, everything would be reduced. So we need to get to that point where we realize that there is a lot of interconnectedness of issues, and once we start addressing those, once we start breaking those issues down to their proponents, that is when we can now start bringing out the proper solutions to it.
Thank you very much, Ayo. Thank you. Who's going to be running for governor? Who's running for House of Assembly? Are you going? All right. All right. What they've said is true, but to be honest, Nigerian politics is not. They've made it very unattractive to the youth. They've made it unattractive, and that's the reality. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll give it back to our panelists now. So we have from everything you've heard, answer the key questions directed to you and the ones you think you want to answer, and then give your final remarks. So just to check in with Ibrahim. Ibrahim, do you want to add anything before I pass it on to the panelists? All right.
Okay. Honestly, I feel feel like everybody here is a panelist at this point. I feel like everybody is a panelist at this point because you guys have said a lot of beautiful things, and there's been a lot of ideas and reality checks, and so I'll just be commenting on a few things that I noted down. So the first is the someone talked about the fact that there's little consistency, and that to sustainability of projects. So it's not enough to have an idea that you think, because if you're to get support from a government or international organization, or if you're to get support in any way, you have to have a long term goal. How is this project supposed to be feasible or sustainable? So a lot of times, some people create ideas and they don't understand or realize the fact that if they die tomorrow, that idea dies with them. That project dies with them. That movement dies with them. So it's very important to assess yourself. What you are doing today, if you die tomorrow, would this change you are trying to make, this impact you are trying to make, would it continue? So that's one thing that I just want us to do. Go home and think about. So when whatever we're doing, try to make sure that it's not centered. The project is not centered around you and your existence, but more around people you're trying to impact. So that's just the first point. Then, how can we transfer knowledge to the rural areas? Like I said before, there are local actors everywhere. No matter how uneducated you think people are in a particular area, if you go there, you will find someone doing something. So it's not we coming from Lagos to go and start establishing a department there to try and start creating change. It's we partnering with people over there, trying to increase their output, trying to increase the value that they are giving out. So if we really want to transfer knowledge and take this system around Nigeria or around Africa, like I mentioned earlier, we have to start working with that spider web system by connecting local actors across each region to create the impact you are looking to create. I hope that answers your question. The how can Let me comment on something someone said about uh, how the impact of things we do here in Lagos that affects other states. That's very true, honestly. Uh, I mentioned earlier that in a few years' time, major cities are going to be taken over by the sea. But how many people have noticed here that people keep buying land in Lekki, and Lekki lands keep getting expensive? People don't understand that they keep sand filling. Our sea level is our sea levels keep rising, but the lands they are selling keeps getting expensive, and people are buying it. And it's like these people have not come across the news. So that this your land. Maybe in a few years time, you'll be dragging for land in your state or so. So, so it's very true. And when lastly talking about greenwashing, greenwashing is a very it's not talked about enough, but it's a very big deal. Yeah, there's just washing. I'll come to that. So I was opportunity to be in Paris like some weeks ago, and the event was a 3-0 event, so it was centered around zero carbon, zero emission, and zero hunger. But one of the things that a friend of mine noted was that one of the sponsors of that event, or two of their sponsors actually, Societe Generale, a bank, and two banks actually, were also heavy sponsors of Total Energies. So, so, so in a session, he brought it up and he asked them that, are we not being hypocrites? That if you are all seated here thinking of solutions and everything, but behind the scenes, people are shaking hands with them and breaking bread with them. But one thing I was able to learn is that it's not a black or white situation. Nothing is black or white. It's not a do or die. We actually have to work hand in hand to actually get somewhere. You have to sit down in a room with them. If for people that think that you should basically try to limit your dealings with them or your network with them, I would say those people have not had real life impact experience, because when you're trying to make a change that's realistic, you have to sit down with the devil sometimes. You have A lot of times you have to be in the room with them, and that's how change comes into play actually. So don't write off any organization or program you see that's being funded by so-called the bad guys, which who are the people that are meeting. But the truth is that they have the money. They have the money. You want to create change. So how do you create change? And you sit down with them and talk with them. Now this is your money. We can use it for something good. So we know we are getting somewhere. You get so it won't happen overnight. You need their money to start creating the little change you can. Imagine if you're sitting with the no, these are bad. They are evil people. We will not deal with them at any cost. Now you are being very selfish because you are thinking about yourself and your ideologies, not the people you want to impact. So at the end of the day, it's not you that's losing or winning; it's the people that's losing. So most times we have to make sure that whatever we're doing is bigger than ourselves. So a lot of times you find people sitting down with people from international organizations or big oil companies that we term the bad guys. So I'm coming to youth washing now. Youth washing is it's just like greenwashing. Is this we know it very well in this part of the world where election time is when you'll be seeing a lot of youth around the politician. You'll be holding town hall meetings. So it's getting ideas from the youth and consultations from the youth. Came up in a roundtable discussion. Myself and Dami we were opportune to be in with the Minister of Development Corporation in Belgium about some weeks ago, and she was like, she doesn't know what it is. I just told her that the thing is that this thing we're doing here, the program we're doing here is youth washing. it's youth washing because you've gathered youth here. We're here. We're discussing. Well, what are you going to do after this event? What's going to happen? What's all these ideas we're talking about? What's going to? I mean, is this photo of we're doing right? So, what's youth washing is a big deal, and the thing is that a lot of times we don't hold leaders accountable to all these things that we do. You come for town hall meetings. You come for decisions around table. You say you're coming for round table discussions and stuff like that. You bring excellent ideas and everything, but you go home, and that's it. Your idea slips in the notes that you jotted it in. So one of the solutions we can make do with that is accountability actually. And if, for example, like I said before, if you come for a program like this, you're supposed to demand a follow up. There's supposed to be a follow up. There's supposed to be something coming from it. It was like one thing I love why is this does or why is the end does I love is the fact that for every event we have, there's always a follow up. You always see a document, and this is not something that's slipping online now. We're always presenting it everywhere. So that's one thing you have to do. Anywhere you find yourself, and so far you're making use of your intellectual capacity and you're contributing to something to the program or the conference, you must demand for a follow up. So that's a way to tackle youth washing. Yes, active. So to the moderation's question, which is the message to the youth out there. The truth is that if if uh, if you are in need for the money right now, I'll just tell you that you should just change what you are doing and just move to go and learn tech or oil and gas or do something else. But the truth is that most of us actually have things we're doing, but this is also a passion for a lot of people in this room. So, as a youth, please always try to educate your fellow youth wherever you find yourself. The truth is that the number of us that we think are activists in this climate change are very, very small. If you leave this place now, a lot of our colleagues, friends, they think the opposite way we think. Yes, so let's all start with your circle. A lot of us are climate activists now, but in your circle you are chilling with your friends, and your friend is finished eating and he just throws his bottle on the road and you don't say anything, but you are a climate activist. So start the change with your circle, your family, and let's just try to do the most we can one step at a time. So thank you very much for having me. It has been a wonderful session, and I'll be giving the mic to Duro now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shay. I think we should all give ourselves a round of applause because we have done beautifully well today. I even personally learned from many of the contributions that the participants made here today, and it's very fantastic to know that each and every one of us are thinking in the same direction. So we are sure that at least for the next or in the next 20 years, if we have people like you sitting in positions of leadership, we know that you're making the right choices and the right decisions for the future generation. So to be honest, I don't have much contribution because I believe that I don't want to overflog the issue. I believe that many of the things I wanted to say have been said by him in response to the questions that have been thrown to the panelists. But I think that one thing Shaya mentioned was about quality management systems, that if you want to build an organization or partner with an organization, you also have to create sustainable yes, make it sustainable, yes. But to also add to what he said, I think that you also have to build quality management systems around your organization so that you do not work in silos, but at the end of the day you're working with other people. So that organization can coexist without you. So you can replicate your organization in several other places that you are not even physically present there. That is just like making a franchise, yes? So that is how, so you have to think about how do I build quality management systems? Because I think one person mentioned management, and that's very important. So you have to build systems around things that you are doing so that at the end of the day, you can replicate that in other places that you coexist or you don't even have a physical presence in, and that's very important. And the last thing I want to mention is if we want to change the narrative for the better and we don't have conversations like this in the next 20 to 30 years or in the next 50 years, then it's now left for the youth to take up the spheres of influence. And what do I mean by this? So there are like 7 major spheres of influence that if the right thinking people enter into those spheres of influence, then your economic becomes drastically changed. So what are like these spheres? Economics, politics, education, family, entertainment, media, and I think there's one more, but it skipped my mind. So like you can see that if people thinking well enter these different spheres of influence, then you would not be having conversations of how do we make quality education for our people, because you have people that are thinking correctly in that line. You don't. So if you're having people that are entering the spheres of politics, yes, the last one is religion. So if you're having people that think that are entering the spheres of politics and you're saying, I want to have a good government for my country, so you would not be having conversations like this. So if you look at the 7 spheres that, and if good and accurate people can occupy those spheres of influence, then you have a change of the narrative. And your generations to come will be assured of, oh, the next 50 years, I'm certain, because the narrative has changed, because these 7 major spheres influences every aspect of your life in society and economics. So that's basically what I want to leave us all with. So thank you all so much for having me.
Okay, so I'm going to try to make it very short. I wanted to offer a different perspective in regards to greenwashing. I feel we should call it a spade a spade. Coca-Cola room and you want to go out, you literally have to walk to the door, right? That is the only solution to going out of this room. You can choose to go through the windows, but there might be issues with that. You can choose to dance around and just hang around here and keep on playing, but you aren't getting to the door. You are just wasting time. Coca-Cola can make one policy, and in a couple of years, we won't be talking about plastic pollution. Funding in conference, yes, is a good way to approach this problem, but it is not the solution we need. Now, plastic pollution and climate change is this is a very sensitive topic for me, and I'm trying my best to just articulate properly. I remember seeing the news, and I'm even very shocked to see that Unilever was the sponsor of last year's conference. And I remember the eco anxiety I felt. I felt completely, I actually almost, one particular event I had after COP27, like during with National Geographic Explorers, I almost like they had asked me to go home, like I should go home. I was looking so drained. I was mentally drained. I was physically drained, because when you get there, you would see how people are so lackadaisical. Our governments are so lackadaisical about this issue, and inherently, it is our future they're talking about, and being so lackadaisical about it. And I came to the realization that sadly, COP27, COP 100, COP 50, COP whatever it might be. It has worked. We have done this for the past 30 years. We are still heading towards over 2 degrees Celsius. What are we doing? Sadly, COP cannot solve this problem. Sadly, COP can help us build collaborations at the grassroots. Like I remember the networks I got through COP. I remember it can help us to reaffirm our commitment, but COP alone cannot solve this problem. And that is why even at the grassroots here, what are we doing towards in the grassroots? Yes, solutions personally, but what are we also doing towards in terms of the government, collaborating with the government, as she has said, in a healthy manner to bring change, like beyond just going to the conference. I'm very, I don't even know if I'm going to go to conference. If I go to conference, thank God. If I don't go to conference, it's fine, because I've come to understand that sadly, like my work right now is deeply strenuous. And when I saw that news about Coca-Cola, I felt deeply sad, because I work hard every single day to make solutions to solve this problem. And these guys have they just need to go to their design board, do some research vastly into this problem, channel the funds to the right places, and we will not be gathering necessarily for COPs. But because some people want to protect their interests, they end up going to these places thinking that we think that they're coming to help us. Yes, they might be, but towards what end? Is it towards protecting their own interests or protecting the interest of our planet and people? We are gathering with people that have killed people, talking about people that have died. Plastic pollution, I don't want to go into it, because from production to its disposal, in different ways, it is causing environmental injustice, and it is very linked to climate change, but a lot of people do not know. And we can't afford to keep silent. A lot of people are not aware of this problem. That is why we are still where we are now. So we have to change our mindset. They have to change their mindset. And money influences so much. So when you have someone giving you money, you can't talk to the person anyhow. You can't tell the person the truth, because he's funding what you aim to either eat or gain from the conference. So I strongly believe that we have to rethink models of financing around these conferences. And this is not to say anybody is right or wrong, because every idea, every thought is very valuable, right? But honestly, personally, I feel that we have to change the models of how we are addressing this issue as international agencies. So thank you so much. And final point, what gives me hope about this whole issue? And I don't know, a lot of us grew up understanding the calendar at the time. There was a time in this planet there was nothing like a calendar. There was nothing like a time. There was nothing like all this stuff to make and also I will encourage us to prioritize capacity building and knowledge. I keep on saying knowledge, because knowledge is every single thing. Knowledge is so needed. Like, you have to understand the need as a young person to constantly build yourself and develop yourself. And every other thing, if you really need other things, you definitely come, but just go for knowledge. Secondly, mentorships and network. Like, I literally can't have a conversation with a fellow person without mentioning, oh, my mentor said this, my mentor said that. They have gone this path before. They have, though it might be a bit different, but some insights from them can save you a lot of years and stress and mistakes. So work with mentors, look for mentors, and be very passionate about like how you can not just take, but how you can make mutual connections with them that can help both parties. Finally, as somebody said, bottom to the top approach, right? It is so important. Like, literally, we can't keep on coming from the top to the bottom. Like, that is just it has, even though we want to explore that, it has to be like collaborative, because there are many ways to cut a tree, right? So bottom to the top, top to the bottom, but especially from the bottom, we have to understand the needs of people before we go ahead to create solutions. Our ideas might be very nice, but have you asked the people, is that what they need? Is that how they need it? Is that why they need it? Is that when they need it? And finally, our motives are so important. If you have the wrong motives in this movement, as he said, sadly, just stop, please, just stop, because it's not worth it. This is very hard. Like, literally, I've had several stress breakdowns this year. I'm trying my very best to prioritize my health, because this work is vast. It is very vast. And if you want to do it from a good place, you would see the good things, but that should not be the focus. The focus should be on how we can bring real change to real issues with the help of people, and help prioritize people, planet over profit. So thank you very much, everybody, for listening to me.
I have a question for anybody. There's a gift. Can you tell me one thing? I know people that will call to answer, because I know some people might know the answer. Can you tell me one thing that is common about the three of them? There is some. No, I'm not asking you. All right. I have a feeling you will know, so I don't want to ask you. All right, okay.
jotter and a pen, always taking down.
Fine, but that's not what we're looking for. You want to try? It's not obvious. It's not something you would see. Yes. Oh, oh. Or no, I'm not asking. No, listen. All right, no, let me try. People that are not so, they are passionate. Yes, that's good, but that's not what we want. All right, let me. Okay, I hope you don't get it.
They are all part of the Sustainable Development Network.
No. Do you know? No, no, don't say it. Oh, you know? You know, I'm not, of course. So, who wants to try? No, 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 no. You're close, but that's not it. Fumi would know. Fumi would know. No, I don't want to ask. All right. Okay. Oh yeah, just say it. They are all core members. No.
They're all lawyers.
So yes. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. She's a law graduate. He's a law graduate. She's a lawyer in equity. So they're all lawyers. 3 years. This would be the people. Yes. So in terms of policies, they will be the ones. That's okay. You don't plan to leave Nigeria, right? You're not one of those. Do you plan to leave Nigeria? Do you plan to leave Nigeria? Eh? Okay, no. She's sure. She's sure. She's sure, but Shaya is not sure. You're not going anywhere. All right, I'll believe you. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thanks for the contribution. You may take your leave now. Please, a round of applause for our. All right, so we are slowly going to be a networking session right after this. Yes, I'm a lot indifferent. One way or the other, there was no way I was going to graduate with the first class. I'm just trying to share a story. Please, went to. So we're able. That thing was about the profit I got. Nice, and it's still good to see. Is that I wanted to be that probably I'm coming to the UN in 5 years' time. I'm seeing Lachey. She's like, okay, what can we do to make Nigeria better? She would, of course, in a way, influence the resources to make sure that she contributes towards the betterment of Nigeria. So what's the name? Temitokwe. I wanted to be that if I'm going to Coca-Cola, I'm seeing Temitokwe. She's now at the forefront of driving new models to ensure that Coca-Cola is properly addressing the issue of climate change. So that's it all. Please network, reach out to people. There is a session on this already. Ibukun, do you have the people selected? Because sorry, we need about 4 people to do something. So you'll just reach out to them, right? All right. So before we go for lunch, feel free to, for those of you joining us virtually, please, your lunch is available as well. We are working on it. All right. It's going to be delivered. Just a minute. All right. Please, if you're joining virtually, can you turn on your camera so we can take a picture, like a screenshot? Please feel free to turn on your camera so we'll take a picture. Guys, please feel free to network. If you want to reach out to Duro, you want to reach out to Sheye, you want to reach out to anybody that spoke virtually, please reach out to me. I'll give you their contact. Network, reach out to people. After which we would have a group photo and we'll go for lunch. Thank you again.